York City, sexually based offenses are considered especially heinous. These are their stories.
Hey guys, welcome to Munch My Benson. My name's Adam. Of course, I'm here in Albuquerque, and I'm not only joined on the line by Josh, but today we have a very special guest. So Josh, you want to introduce our guest?
Sure, yeah. In a break from our regularly scheduled programming, we're joined today by Michelangelo Milano, who our audience would know from his turn as Patrick Binder, not Bender, Brandy's boyfriend in Possessed. One of the two illustrious episodes of SVU.
Larissa's boyfriend.
I know, but they're going to remember her as Brandy more than Larissa. Sorry, I dead named her or whatever, but one of the two episodes of SVU to receive a perfect 10 out of 10 from our patent pending 4 criteria 10-point scale, and which we will be dropping into the main feed in conjunction with this episode.
With a bullet, too.
Yes.
This episode is so good.
I just watched it again and it was gold. Yeah. It was so fucking fun to watch it again. Michelangelo, thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for having me. I'm so honored to be in such a wild, crazy, bonkers episode. I rewatched it myself and wow.
Yeah, it's
wow.
It
horrible.
Fucking goes there.
Horrible in its subject matter.
Yes. Now, while it's safe to assume much of this chat will revolve around acting, we're not defined solely by our occupations. Michelangelo, what do you have going on right now?
I have a podcast myself.
Nice.
Called The Return Slot of Horror. You can check us out on Instagram at the Return Slot _ of Horror Pod, or our YouTube channel at the Return Slot of Horror Podcast, or just listen anywhere you listen to your podcast, Spotify,
Nice.
Apple, all that jazz. And we are obsessed with horror films. And we hang out in the basement of our video store that we own and operate, and we talk about these horror films. And I will warn you, I mean, and I kind of feel like this is your vibe here too, is like it's really just as much about us and like how those movies reflect our experiences and our like how we view life.
Yeah.
So it's like you're going to be listening to people hanging out, having a drink, and talking about horror movies that they love.
Nice.
Yeah. I saw you guys did Cruisin' recently.
Oh, nice.
Yes. Technically not a horror film, but I got it in there. It's you got some slasher in there. It's
awesome.
The story behind Cruising is a fascinating and wild one. I highly recommend people read William Friedkin's autobiography, and they watched a documentary on Cruising. Check out our episode on it. It's a wild story.
See, this is a totally different Cruising than the one I thought you were doing. I thought you were doing the Huey Lewis as Gwyneth Paltrow's dad, where they do karaoke together.
Dude, isn't that Sliding Doors?
No, Sliding Doors is a different Gwyneth Paltrow movie.
But that movie's not called Cruisin', though, is it?
It's not. I don't think it's called Cruising.
I think they just sing Cruising.
They're sing Cruising.
I think they sing Cruising, but I don't think that it's called Cruising.
It's a movie with, like, I know Paul Giamatti, I think, is in it. It's about karaoke. It's about karaoke, and it's almost anthology, maybe.
Yeah.
In that it's these different anyways. Yeah, whatever that movie is called.
That's way off track, Adam. Have you ever read the oral history of the making of The Warriors? Because when they're shooting The Warriors, Cruisin' is shooting in New York too at the same time.
I have
There's
not.
one crazy night where like there's like a gang fight that like breaks out basically between the two shoots that are happening or some shit. But the oral history of the making of The Warriors is fucking fascinating too. Both movies are great.
I just bought the book that the movie is based off of. It's a great New York summer read, and
nice.
I can't imagine because I know they had gangs that they were having to pay off, right, for protection, plus the mob, and then dealing with the people boycotting,
cruising, and because. As you can imagine, all of the guys in the Warriors outfits are getting pegged as being guys that are in Cruising.
Yeah.
So they're getting hit with protests because all the protesters think that Cruising or that the Warriors is Cruising.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Both of those shoots happening at the same time in New York is kind of like I think
was another
Adam and
one-
my ideal vision of what New
Like,
York would be
Night
like.
of the Juggler or Wolfen. One other movie that we've seen that we really, really liked was shooting at the same time.
Night of the
also.
Juggler was at the same time, I believe.
Yeah, I think
I
it was
don't
Juggler.
know that
which is-
one. Night of the Juggler.
Oh man,
dude.
it's fucking amazing. Basically, James Brolin is he's a truck driver
Yep.
whose daughter gets kidnapped, and he has to go on this like rampage across the gritty New York City from the 70s.
Much
He's
of
going
this
through, like-
rampage happening on foot.
Yeah, on foot
sold.
in like
He is
like, in
running
traffic
almost
in
this
Central
entire
Park.
movie.
He's in like brothels in Times Square. They're going through like shooting on location in the rubble of the South Bronx. It's fucking awesome. The sad thing is it's impossible to get a decent print of it because of dumb contractual things. So there's a version on YouTube that is it's like a VHS copy that got uploaded. So especially when it gets to later scenes where they're in the tunnels below Central Park, you can't tell what's going on at all. But but otherwise it's
Still worth
fantastic.
it. Still worth it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And occasionally you'll see screenings of it. Basically, the home video rights got sucked into like bankruptcy void. So no one can buy the rights to it
Like-
because the company doesn't exist anymore. It's like a fucking
Tarantino
refrigerator
owns-
company or something. Tarantino
owns a
can watch it at the
copy
New
or
Beverly.
somewhere.
Yeah.
Has he talked about it on his podcast? Do you know?
I
Good
don't
question.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I have to suss this out. And speaking
It's
of
fantastic.
speaking of the Warriors, David Patrick Kelly.
Oh yeah.
David Patrick Kelly. You didn't
yeah.
get to have a scene with him because
Yeah.
he's on fire.
Unfortunately
and that's-
did not.
Yeah.
And I've seen him around for years because I go to the theater a lot. And you will, if
Okay.
you live in New York and you go to the theater, you're either going to see him in a play or you're going to see him in the audience watching a play. He has been
So
around.
he's like
forever.
a real theater head.
Oh, he is
Yeah.
absolutely a theater guy, and like he is wild in this episode, and he
my
just like he makes big bold choices. Him and Devin
Rattray?
Rattray.
Devin Rattray. You
He-
did get up close and personal with Devin
Yes,
Rattray.
I did. I got to meet him. I got to work with him. He was awesome. He
Okay,
was just hanging out like that.
We've got tons of questions about this.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. But let's talk about just you for a little bit.
Okay.
Just so we're not burning through that. So what I can gather on the internet, or from what I can gather on the internet, you look to have been born in Chicago and mostly raised in KC, Kansas City.
Yeah, that is correct.
What took your family to KC?
So my father is an immigrant from Sicily.
Okay.
And came to the country, and his family's plan was to work for a year and then go back to Sicily because his father, the job that he had was the type of job where it's like, well, the city doesn't have any money to pay you this year.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So you come to America, you work for a year, you live like a king. So he made the mistake of falling in love with my mother, a wonderful mistake, and stayed. And there's this huge Sicilian immigration in both Chicago and in Kansas City.
Okay.
For some reason. It has something to do with the mafia and the factories and things like that.
Yeah.
Organized crime had a pretty big hold of Kansas
Yeah,
City. for a
KC
while.
has that
Yeah.
reputation. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's weird. It's like Kansas City. When people hear I'm from Kansas City, they just assume I'm from Brooklyn or something. I don't. I've lost a lot of my like Italian dialect, but like there are a lot of guys like my brothers. There's all these kids who have never left Missouri in their life, but they look and they sound like they're from Brooklyn.
Okay.
Right.
Well,
So
I mean,
yeah,
if
he
that's
just
a
moved
community
back
you
and
grow
forth.
up in, you just kind of talk like that.
Yeah, I remember I had a friend from came to visit my house like in high school, and he was like, oh, I get you a little more now because like
Okay.
you walk into my house and you're not in Kansas City, you're just in like this Italian house,
You're in Palermo.
Yeah.
It's loud, and there's like a grandma in the corner yelling at you, right?
My nanny literally lived down the street from us.
Okay.
It was
Nice,
wonderful,
nice.
and spent the weekends at the house, and
Nice.
yeah, she yelling at me with a broom in her hand.
Was this your mother's family, or did some of your dad's family come back too?
So this was my mother's side. My father's side all moved back to Sicily, and unfortunately, his father passed when I was about 1. So I never got to know him. And my mother's father also passed when she was a little kid. He was a semi-famous jazz musician in Chicago who unfortunately died like in his like late 30s or early 40s from a brain tumor.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Not the reason that a jazz musician usually dies at that age.
That's what they die when they're 27 when that happens.
Yeah,
So
sure.
he tried to go straight when he got married and couldn't hack it. Like he tried all sorts of different type of straight time jobs, but just like, he on his albums, he played all the instruments himself.
Okay.
He was kind of a virtuoso, real interesting person. Yeah. And it's wild to me that out of me and all my siblings, and now I have 10 nieces and nephews. Out of all of this group of people, none of us have any music ability whatsoever. You would think someone would be able to play the piano.
There'd be some
this guy, but no. I guess I'm waiting for the next generation and see what happens there.
What's his name?
Is this stuff available?
Yeah.
His name, Vic Scatia, and I don't think you can find it anywhere. It was like we had some records in the house, obviously, from when he was around. I don't think you could.
Was it a regional label or was it a?
I don't.
Was it like Decca or something?
I imagine it was just a regional label. When I was in when I was in middle school, as a birthday gift to my mother, I transferred it all to CDs. But I really don't think they exist outside of our house. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be on the lookout for it. My day job is oftentimes digging through crates of old records that nobody's gone through in like decades.
What is your day job? What is this?
I work for an estate sale company.
Okay.
I get to go like spelunking in people's like weird histories, which is fun.
This being Adam's like dream job, basically.
Kind of, yeah. I just need to solve crimes while I'm doing this.
Yeah.
I'll have to figure out how that works. Turn it into a British mystery.
You get solve cold cases.
There you go.
You know what I mean?
Right?
Through
About
these
record
treasures.
collections.
Yeah.
Generally it's Christmas decoration collections. That's usually what I'm going through.
Do you ever find I'm obsessed with Halloween? I love Halloween. Do you find some really amazing vintage turn of the century Halloween decorations?
So I haven't found any cool old Halloween decorations. Now we just closed out we did this show we were selling off the show. Yeah. It was a children's show that shot here for 3 years, and they had like 2 warehouses full of utter crap that we had to sell off. And they did a Halloween special movie for this children's show, and so they had so much like. I had to throw away like 10 room-sized spiders, and we actually were able to sell 2 20-foot-tall jack-o'-lanterns that are now at a cannabis dispensary in the North Valley here in town.
Of course.
So it's like, why? It's not Halloween themed at all.
That seems like a smart buy for that business.
Exactly, right. I wonder what they were doing before they came to the sale that day.
Now, did you grow up in Kansas City proper, or were you in like Blue Springs or Independence or something?
I was in Kansas City proper.
Okay.
Nice.
North Missouri Kansas side City. Of the border. Yeah.
Missouri side of the border. Yeah.
So I'm pretty familiar with KC, but I didn't grow up there. It seems kind of isolated to me from places from whence there's a pipeline to Hollywood or Broadway. Do you know what it was that sent you down a path of pursuing life in the arts?
It's literally the only thing that I could ever like I was constantly in trouble. I'm dyslexic. I have a host of learning disabilities, and because my father was working, he was a butcher, and like he worked nighttime jobs as a janitor, and my mother was going to school. We had a lot of like unattended time, my siblings and I. There's 5 of us all together, and I'm in the middle. So I just kind of slipped through these cracks, and I also grew up in a time where these things weren't so well known. So unfortunately, the system I grew up in, it was like, oh, you're just lazy.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
That's why you can't learn, So what I found was that when my sister introduced me to the forensics team, the drama club, and I found that I could focus for some reason when doing that, and I got positive reinforcement. It was the only thing I got positive reinforcement from, and I would go to competitions, and I would win trophies and awards, and it felt good to, like, because I didn't play sports. I sucked at sports. I sucked at everything, but acting was the one thing. And I was I still am really such a painfully shy person.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're in the theater, you have a group of friends just built in. Plus, there are so many really attractive girls and women about, and it's just like they're there. And as you get older, it's like, at least when I came up as a straight male, you're a minority in that group, and most of the men are gay and most of the women are straight. So it's just, it was
a numbers game.
Yeah, and I have no game with, like, to this day. Like, I've been with my partner for a long time now, but like every partner I've ever had made the move on me. I got no game.
So you studied at Columbia College. Did you go in Chicago? Did you go straight there after high school, or did you get there in a roundabout way?
So graduating high school, I was going to join the Army. Now this is June of 2001. So I was going to join the Army, but I got a scholarship to a school in New York, acting conservatory, the American Musical and Dramatic Arts Academy.
Okay.
Nice.
And then I started in the summer, and then September 11th happened. I was in a dance class when the first plane hit, and I remember someone came into the dance class and told us that America was under attack. It was bizarre and surreal. And
where in New York is AMDA?
Upper West Side.
Okay.
I was totally safe. I was fine.
Yeah.
I didn't have a cell phone at the time, so like the
none of us did.
And it must have been a nightmare for my mother. Like I remember my primary goal was like figuring out a way, because the payphones weren't working, figuring out a way to contact her to let her know that I was okay. I didn't have email. I didn't have a computer. I didn't have a phone. And
it's easy for, like, if you're in New York, the Upper West Side is like a different, different country, basically.
It's so far away
than downtown.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you're your mother in Kansas City, it's like, oh my God,
she has no
New York's
idea.
under attack. Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the same. If there's a wildfire in LA, doesn't matter where it is, you're getting phone calls like, "Are you guys okay?"
Yeah.
It's like, this is so far from me.
Yeah.
When I was still there.
Yeah.
So my favorite, not that we should be laughing about 9/11, but my favorite 9/11 story is they're on set shooting Master of Disguise.
Oh,
the
yes.
Dana Carvey movie. And a producer comes in. A producer comes in. Yeah, a producer comes in and it lets everybody know, guys, they just flew planes into the World Trade Center. And they're shooting in New York. Yeah. And they have a moment of silence and keep shooting.
Jesus Christ.
And he's in.
It was a turtle scene, I believe.
Yeah, it's the turtle scene. Yeah, so he's in that. I believe he is addressing the cast and crew in that costume.
Yeah. Amazing.
Wow.
Okay, so you were at AMDA for the summer. Was the conservatory program full year?
It's a 2-year program, and what you can do is you can circumvent breaks. So you could you could take your summer break or start at the summer and then not take any breaks. And you could do the 2-year program in a year and 6 months because it's broken down into semesters. Sure, So that's what I did. And my plan was always, like, I went there because I had a scholarship and I had nowhere else to go, really, because I was such a bad student. I mean, I graduated with like a D- average. Like, if it wasn't for the vice principal, I don't think I would have been able to graduate.
Right.
He saw that I was a good kid and that I just had these learning issues. So my plan was always to go to Chicago, if not the Army. And because the school at Steppenwolf was like the epitome of what it means to be an actor. So I got into Columbia College. I moved back home for like a few months, got into Columbia College. I had a girlfriend at the time who was going to DePaul. And then I moved to Chicago and sort of like really cut my teeth in Chicago.
Okay.
Like learning there.
Now, when you got into Columbia, were you able to use conservatory credits towards like...
No, it was completely from scratch. And in fact, I got accepted. I wanted to study film, so I got accepted as a film major, but then I just took all theater classes because once I got there and I was like, oh man, making movies is impossible. It is so freaking hard. It's an impossible task. It's a miracle that a movie ever gets made, even when it sucks. It's still amazing. It's amazing. So I was like, I cannot make a movie. This is too much for me. Theater's like camp. You know what I mean? You're a family, you hang out. It's magic and it's wonderful. So like I just kept studying theater, but then I got kicked out because my financial aid didn't go through. So I'm halfway through my second
Columbia
semester.
College is insanely expensive for those who don't know.
It's so expensive. And this turned out to be a blessing in disguise. It didn't feel like it at the time, but I go into the financial aid office. We're like, we messed up. We didn't process your aid, so we need $10,000. And I was like, well, that's what the aid was for. I don't have $10,000.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, if you can't pay it, you gotta go and you gotta be out of the dorms in like a couple of days. So I crashed on some couches and I just made my way through Chicago. David Cromer, who is a predominant director and actor now, at the time was a teacher there. He let me stay in his class. I was cast in a play that they let me stay in. The department was really cool about it. And I eventually got back up on my feet, did some stuff out there, got accepted into the school at Steppenwolf, which was a summer program. That changed my life. That was a wonderful summer.
What faculty was there at Steppenwolf?
Well, Amy Morton, if you know who she is, she was one of my teachers. Just basically their ensemble was at your disposal as teachers throughout. So it's like Amy Morton would go on to direct The Pillow Man, which eventually moved to Broadway and had...
As often happens with Steppenwolf, so much shit goes from Steppenwolf to Broadway.
And I got to be her guinea pig for some stuff for her directing that show, because I got to do it with her before she did it with the real cast. But it was just, I was just like, to me, knowing her and getting to study with her was like getting to study with Meryl Streep.
Sure.
She's just, she's amazing.
Nice.
A learning experience you can't put a price tag on. Yeah.
And a lot of the people who go to Steppenwolf often refer to the time once you're done as the Great Steppenwolf Depression that comes after, because you've learned all these amazing skills and how to work together as an ensemble. But what you learn as soon as you go out into the world and start working is that no one gives a fuck about your process. No one gives a fuck about connecting with you. And not that everyone is like this, but you will meet people who are very focused on just doing what they need to do. And it's a very hard lesson to learn when you're coming from such a wonderful, holistic. Yeah.
Right. Well, and it was started by all those hardcore Illinois State motherfuckers like Sinise and Malkovich, and Laurie Metcalf was there super early. Tracy Letts came out of there. Michael Shannon came out of there. I mean, Michael Shannon was obviously later, but it's crazy how much fucking talent that place formed that place, and then it churned out after.
Yeah. Groundbreaking theater, and it's my goal in high school was I don't care if I have to push a broom there. I want to be involved in some capacity. I remember I went and I saw Betrayal with Tracy Letts and Amy Morton, and I knew some of the people who knew them. And I remember after the show being in an elevator with Tracy Letts and being like, I really liked You're So Good. And he was like, yeah. It was just it's never meet your heroes,
right? And it's always that's always because you're going to embarrass yourself. It's not the hero's fault.
No, it's not their fault.
Trust me, I've had that. I've had those moments too. We've talked about them on the podcast before. So how long did you stick around Chicago after that? Were you starting to get up on stage after the Steppenwolf summer, or?
I couldn't I was getting told by my agent and by casting directors when I would go in for auditions, we like you should move to New York or LA. We like you, leave town. They're like, you have a look and a vibe that could get you work, and you should go out to one of the coasts and really give it a go.
But not at our production.
But not for this.
Yeah.
I was, for so many years, I was just an awful auditioner. Being good at auditioning is a completely different skill set, and they don't teach you this when you're going to school than it is to have the job. You know what I mean? And you just have to, the best advice I got when it finally clicked for me when I was in New York was like, you have to treat every single audition as if you got the job, you're hired, and you're getting paid. So you need to go in off book. You need to go in with choices. You need to go in, like, you have to be a polished stone when you walk in through that door. And it took me a long time to learn that. So I left Chicago, went back to Kansas City. It was supposed to only be for a little bit, like for 3 months until I moved again. But then I ended up booking work as an actor in Kansas City.
Sure.
I got my equity card. I did some plays. I worked at the Kansas City Repertory Theater. I worked at Unicorn Theater. I worked at a few other places. It was wonderful. It was wonderful.
Nice.
So equity, your equity card, is that transferable to other cities? Like, is it just like nationwide?
Yeah.
Once you're okay.
London has a different. It's an equity, but it's like a different thing,
It's
I
UK
believe.
thing, yeah.
But I think you get I forget. I don't know how that works. I was just working on a show over there, but not as an actor.
Okay.
But that's the stage union, and then there's the film union.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
So you were in KC for a few years then?
It turned into 2 years. It was supposed to be 3 months. Turned into 2 years. Worked a lot. Saved some money.
You're booking work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming you're able to like live a lot cheaper in Kansas City than you are.
Well, I was living with my parents. You know what I mean?
That helps.
I spent a lot of time in a car. You know what I mean? You can't bring people home to your parents' house. You know, and like my old bunk bed. You know, it's
that doesn't fly?
It's an interesting experience living with your parents again in your 20s, for sure.
I did it for a little while.
I did like 5 months. I think that was as far as I was able to make it.
Yeah, it's hard. It can be hard, and it's like it's such a weird place to be. It's such a privileged position that your parents are willing to take you in and can take you in, but then also dealing with like, I'm an adult. I could stay out as long as I want.
You can't tell me what to do, Mom.
Yes, I would like some dinner. Please leave it in the microwave.
That's not how I like my laundry folded, Mom.
So then I'm assuming New York was next?
The plan was L.A., and then I met a girl, fell in love, and I was reading this fantastic book called Al Pacino in Conversation with Lawrence Gorbel. I'm looking at the book right now. It's on my bookshelf, and it's a compilation of interviews with Al Pacino throughout his career. And I just got like, I got to go to New York. I got to go to New York and do it that way. So I moved to New York instead of L.A.
Had you ever been to New York before you moved there, or was it?
Well, I went to school.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
9/11, Adam. Remember it?
He forgot.
Yeah.
He forgot.
It happens.
Never forget, Adam.
Yeah, I'm always forgetting. I keep forgetting. I'm not in love anymore.
Yeah. Okay, Michael McDonald.
Yeah. How was it jumping in instead of being in school, but into being like a working actor in New York City from nowhere?
So I had the advantage of having my equity card, which meant I could go to casting calls and auditions. I could book times. You wake up early in the morning, you go to the equity building, you sign up for the auditions, and you basically just like, it's like playing the lottery.
Yeah.
Most of the casting calls that get done through equity, most of the people who book work through that, it's usually musicals and touring things. It's not often. It's usually like, equity says we have to audition a certain amount of people for this role, even though we have someone in mind. So it's a lot of that. And I remember the first audition I did, I went in, there was nobody, it was so early. There was this wonderful woman who I guess was a casting director, and I did a monologue for her, and I crushed it. And I got to tell you, if I tell you I did a good job or that I crushed it,
did, yeah.
I really did a good job.
Not
you guys
false
don't know me
bravado
very
or
well. The
anything.
listener
Yeah.
doesn't know me very well. I'm not like an overly confident, hubristic person. But I like crushed it. It was great. It's a great monologue. I executed it well. And I remember she had this look on her face, and she was like, "Good job." And she was just like, she had this sort of like, "You just moved here, huh?" Like in her eyes was like, "You did a good job, but you're gonna go through some stuff, and and like it doesn't matter how good you are, you're gonna go through some stuff. So good luck, kid, good luck." And I started doing that, and within like a very short amount of time, I got an agent.
That's great.
They do these, I don't know if people are aware of these. There's these terrible things you have to do when you're not a connected actor, which is you have to do these pay to play things where they're quote unquote networking things where you're paying to go in front of casting directors, right? And usually casting directors send out casting associates. So you're not actually in front of these casting directors.
Yep.
At its worst, it's a shitty experience. But at its best, you do meet people, like there are casting directors out there who are like not gatekeepers.
Yeah.
They want to help foster careers, and they will teach you. That's how I learned to become good at auditioning. So I got my agent, and then I booked a Law and Order almost immediately.
Okay.
And it was a guest star. I remember
Yeah.
my friend who lives in Canada bought me a ticket to go see Rammstein in Canada, and I was like, yes. And then I got this job, and I was like, I can't come. I'm booking. I'm going to be on TV. I'm going to be on TV.
Nice.
And it's such a
and then he said, "Du hast mich" to you.
Du hast.
Yeah.
Du hast mich. Du hast mich gefragt. So when you're pursuing like an artistic life, when you're pursuing a career as an actor, and you do a lot of stage work, your family, people back home, they just can't wrap their heads around what that is and what it means when you get these like milestones. But when you're on TV, it's an opportunity for your family to go, good
Especially
job,
if it's
kid.
on NBC.
Yeah. It's
on
like
a network.
it's a big show, and it was such a like big deal to get it. I was so excited and nervous. It was like my dream was coming true.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. So sticking with stage for a little bit, not to get.
We'll
continuing to
circle
push.
back.
I'm continuing to push SVU. To
We
the
all
background.
really want to talk about how it was being in a room with Devin Ratray when he was wearing nothing but his tidy whities, but we will
I
wait.
got
Yes,
stories.
yes. I hope so. But you've done quite a bit of stage work in New York. You made your Broadway debut in 2019
As an understudy, but yes.
Yeah. But in the Rose Tattoo starring Marissa Tomei, like
It's a big show.
Getting that is the hardest. It's the hardest job I ever had because I was covering all the
3
male parts
roles,
in
right?
it. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And so
Okay.
you're memorizing I was like, the play was in my head, and she looks. I remember when I met, like I've always had a crush on her, and then
Yeah.
maybe
Who-
like this is too much information, but
No, please.
when I
We
met
wanna know.
when I met her, immediately I was like, oh my god, she looks just like my mom.
That took a left turn.
Yeah. And she is. I mean, she could be. Her and my mother could be sisters. It's
Wow.
crazy. And my mother was very happy to hear me tell that. Like to tell her
Sure.
that.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
She probably is like telling everybody she meets that story.
Marissa Tomei has aged better than almost anyone.
Oh, she is.
she's
And
beautiful.
and seems to have
Fine
done
wine.
so very naturally without obviously there's not like a fuck ton of work that's been done. Any work that has
Yeah.
been done has been
Or if she does, she's a great
top
surgeon.
notch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. I gotta say,
Mm-hmm.
it's such a silly thing to say, but like being a beautiful woman in the business is fucking hard.
Yeah.
All the
Yeah.
predators you have to deal with, aging, dealing with people talking about how you look now versus the way
Right.
you looked then.
Mm-hmm.
And I think her saving grace has been like she's always been involved in the theater,
Okay.
and it gives you like a place. I think it gives you a like a grounded place in the world, a family and a community. That you don't often sometimes get with the film business, which is
Yeah, you can get
brutal.
isolated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then if you have that grounding, you can choose the movies that you want to do if you're Marissa Tomei, right? She's the only movies she's in are good movies. She's not taking shitty parts. Good for her.
And she is a really, really nice person. She
That's
took the
awesome.
time to always say hello to me. She didn't have to.
No.
When you're an understudy, sometimes people can treat you like you're not exactly a part of the group.
I believe it.
But she took time to always say hi. Says hi, hi Michelangelo. How are you? You doing good?
Nice.
Good. Yeah. That's my Marissa Tomei impersonation.
But I started flashing to I was thinking of Marissa Tomei in Untamed Heart or something. Just to,
I was thinking of George Costanza going out on dates with Marissa Tomei.
Oh yeah. So did you get to make it on stage a little at least?
So all the understudies ended up going up because Marissa Tomei was going to be gone for a performance, and then the understudy I was working with broke her foot during a rehearsal, and then there was a big rotation, and then people got sick, but all the guys, it was the main guy was Scottish, smokes and drinks, and never gets sick a day in his life. He was never going to miss a performance.
The alcohol kills it all.
Yeah, right? And the smoke. It suffocates.
The alcohol and the smoke kills all of the disease.
He was awesome, really talented guy. Then there was a kid right out of school. He wasn't going to miss a performance. You know what I mean? And then the other part was such an easy, one scene, fun part that guy was, all of them were great. But there was one day, it was daylight savings, and the kid screwed up. And I was the dressing rooms were 7 flights up, stacked on top of each other in the roundabout theater, and I was at the top with him. We shared a room, and I was on my way down this spiral staircase, and I'm just I was just on autopilot because I'm going down into makeup to get ready to go, and I'm like, oh, am I I just have to trust that it's there, because every day I just run the show in my apartment. Because as an understudy, you don't get to work in the space that often. Yeah. And as I was going down, he was running up. And it was technically, by equity rules, I could have gone on. But, I'm there to service the show and what the show needs. Yeah. So he went on. But that's as close as I got was that one time. That then I got to shout some things off, from off stage. A couple of times.
I saw that on your Instagram. Because I dig in as much as I can.
I haven't posted on that thing in a long time. Yeah, probably so. The
one of your last
time
posts was the fucking your 0 cent. 0 cent check. I'm assuming that was royalties from maybe this SVU or Gotham.
It was Gotham Power. Or I have 3 of them. But it was for 0. I have 3 checks for 0 cents and $0.00. Hilarious.
Thanks for cutting that, assholes. Now, is there a bar because in LA there was a bar that if you took your residual check in, it was called Residuals. If you took your residual check in and it was for less than $1, you could get a drink with your residual check. That's awesome. Are there any bars in New York?
Not that I know of. Not that
I'm aware of either. I mean,
that's fucked up, man.
Sean would
looks like you should have moved.
Yeah, Sean would be going to trivia there and not the terrible bar we used to go to.
Our other podcast co-host, Sean, is an actor in New York also. And
God bless him.
He's been he was in Twilight, so he got some that's the thing. That's the one gig that he still gets some okay money for. But he definitely has smaller residuals that trickle in and are kind of comical.
Something just happened with Law and Order, because I just started getting the checks at first, especially for Law and Order, the residual payments were huge. Now they're nothing, right? Sure. But some every now and then something, it gets acquired somewhere or something happens, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh hey, $40, all right. Nice.
Yeah, I mean it's not bad. It's mailbox money, but if you book enough of those, you can piece together something. That's a meal for work that you did 13 years ago, 14 years ago.
2011,
I don't even want to think about how long. it's such a long time ago.
Sorry.
I was like, who's that guy on that episode? And that was like, oh man, I ended up going 2 days overshoot what I was supposed to on Law and Order. So like,
really,
that's crazy.
It was like that was the first year I made. I'm like a struggling. I worked at. You guys worked as baristas, right? You've
of
been
course,
baristas.
Yeah. I've done everything.
Yeah.
I was a barista at the time, and since I left my parents' house, I never made more than like 20 grand in a year.
Sure.
And that year, the Law and Order year, I was like above the poverty line for the first time in my life. It was wild.
Nice.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like very scary, honestly, to think about how long it took to get to that point.
Yeah.
To get above the poverty, like, it's probably like that year for me also, which is fucked up.
Yeah, I got above the poverty line, and then my wife got a job in New York City where she was getting paid, but not very much, and we had a child, so I couldn't work. And so we went right back down to the poverty line real quick.
Mm-hmm. You go up and you go down, yeah.
And now that master's license that you have doesn't.
No, I can't really be a boat captain in Albuquerque, can I?
No.
Yeah. Oh well.
No, you're sort of landlocked there, buddy.
Yeah. Oh well.
Do you get any discounts or breaks on insurance or anything like that with your captain's license?
No, I probably could if it was like for boating stuff, but I let it lapse because it's kind of expensive and a pain in the ass test to take. And I'd have to go into a Coast Guard office, and with my other stuff going on, I was like, this is dumb. I don't need to do this.
I find it shocking that something related to boats would be expensive and time consuming.
Yeah.
It's wild, right?
Well, and the Coast Guard is a whole different animal. So boats are very expensive, and you should never buy one, even if you
I
buy
know.
one
Yeah,
for it.
yeah.
If you ever want to go on a boat, just like rent one.
Yeah.
People are happy to take you someplace. But with the Coast Guard, you enter this whole new realm of bureaucracy that most people aren't used to. Like, any asshole can go drive a boat, but if you drive a boat with paying customers, you have a whole different world of hurt and learning to get into. So I did that for a while. It was fun. I kind of miss it, but there's some things
I miss my boat life.
You did this in New York?
I did this in Galveston, Texas, before we moved to New York.
Okay.
When we moved to New York, if we were going to stay there, I was going to get a job doing that in some form or fashion. But once my kid could get into school and we could swing childcare a little bit more, but it's like, it was going to be something like $1,500 to $2,000 a week for childcare.
Whoa.
On the Upper East Side where we lived. And it's just like, well, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I would just be
Adam was in New York
to
until
not see
about
him.
a year and a half ago. Or no.
A year.
Last
a year.
Last year.
We moved last July. Yeah. But, so Albuquerque's nice. You can own a home here and make less than $1 million a year. So it's nice.
Right? It's crazy here. I've been trying, my partner and I have been looking at like buying something upstate. And it's just so crazy expensive.
Do you live in the city?
We live in Queens.
In Queens,
in a Greek neighborhood.
Astoria or a different?
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah,
Astoria's
Astoria.
lovely.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
I wish we could buy a place here, but it's like I'm not a millionaire.
Yeah.
No, that's why we left LA ultimately. It was like I hated where my shit was going, and buying a house was a pipe dream.
No, it's never going to happen. Yeah, and just like being comfortable is you can be comfortable, but like you think about how much money you're making to barely survive in New York versus in some other places. And it's, it depends on what you're doing. But with my wife's career, we can do that here, so it's nice.
Yeah, the starving artist thing gets old when you enter your 30s.
Yeah.
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 Mm-hmm. It gets even older in your 40s.
Yeah.
Yeah. So before we get to the SVU of it all, you were also Jada Pinkett Smith's boy toy bartender of sorts.
Yes.
In the second and third episodes of Gotham, which I did just watch.
Nice.
How was shooting Gotham?
When I showed up to the table read, I was sitting next to Jada Pinkett, and the first thing she said to me was like, "You're not my Laszlo." Apparently, Laszlo is played by a different actor in the pilot episode, and I was just like, "I don't know what you mean." ma'am. This is my name. Like, you know what I mean? But like, other than like her completely understandable confusion as to where's my Laszlo?
Because she hasn't seen the cut where Laszlo's not in that episode.
Yeah. So, and she was awesome to work with.
Okay.
Nice.
She didn't try to convert you to Scientology or anything?
She did not try to convert me.
You didn't get slapped by Will Smith for any reason?
I did not get slapped by anybody except for the big scary man who beat me up.
How heavily choreographed was that?
It was not choreographed at all.
Okay.
So when they take so I get beat up, right?
Yeah.
And when they grab me and they take me sort of like I'm like kind of off camera,
it's in the background of the shot,
out of focus, right? Mm-hmm. They're like pummeling me, right? So I have a lot of stage combat experience, so I kind of like know how to go with the flow with these guys. So I'm like, we work it out, and they're gonna do this thing, and
they're big dudes too.
They're big dudes, and I'm making noises like I'm getting hit, and I'm making it really like pathetic and high pitched.
Okay.
And then I remember after the first take, the director's like, don't make any sounds. Like your mic, like we'll add the sounds later.
Okay.
Like don't like, okay, sorry.
They put all of that in the hands of a Foley artist and a
Yeah.
Okay, that's a bummer.
Yeah. But she is super generous, open actor.
Nice.
That's great.
She was right there. She was just like I could just the best. When you're working with a professional like that, it's so settling for someone who is nervous being around all this. You go on set, it's so many people, and it's like the first day. It's like the first day at school when you're a guest star. And
I'm sure it's so much different to be on like a TV or film set with like, a crew of hundreds and on stage where the crew's not in your face. You don't have a camera in your face. You don't have all the guys lighting, like you don't have G&E like all over the place. But it's got to be a completely different thing, right?
Well, the most important part of it is that you have time unless you're a series regular, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
You have time with everyone. So like you get accustomed to these hundreds of people. You understand who the grips are. You understand, like, you know what I mean? Like you don't feel so out of place.
It's not just some guy walking around with a walkie on his belt.
Telling you. And then it's because then you got to show up and you just got to execute. There's no like process. There's no talking about acting. You've been hired to do the thing that you did before. Right. So do it now. And it's like when you're working with somebody like her, you just kind of like look at her, and as long as you know your lines, you kind of feel like it's going to be okay.
Right. Were you bummed that Laszlo's death happened off screen?
Yeah, man. I was hoping maybe I'll because there was talk of apparently there's a character who becomes a villain whose name is Laszlo, who's some sort of pig guy or something. I was like, oh, maybe I'll be
pig guy.
I'll be a hand will come up out of the sewers at some point, and I'll get to reprise Laszlo. But no, it never. For a long time after work, after I did that gig, after I worked at one point down by Forbidden Planet, which is this amazing comic book store. I would always go in there with a buddy and be like, it's so weird that they don't have the Laszlo figures yet. Like, where's the Laszlo collectible?
So your character's demise and power is immortalized on your Reels page on your website.
Yeah. I made a real career out of getting beat up and killed and playing. Like my thing was prostitutes and Italian guys. That's the thing I go out for. I play Italian guys and prostitutes. So, yes.
So, as hosts of a podcast about a show that routinely exploits background actors, I'm glad you had a line.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Yeah, I had a few lines.
Yeah.
I remember my audition for that. I knew I was going to get it because they were seeing those types of parts. They're typically these insanely attractive guys.
Yeah.
And I go in and like, I'm okay. I'm not supermodel. These guys are like supermodels. You know what I mean?
Right.
But they have no technique.
Sure.
Most of these guys, they don't have any technique. So I'm like, I know that if I go in there and I use all my tools for auditioning and I give them an arc, even if it's one line, I give it an arc, I know that I'll at least impress the casting director and they'll be happy to see me because like I'm not just like an empty, vapid, pretty face.
Right.
And I know when I was like, I know I got this. I know.
Did you get a bump for being in the pool?
A bump like in pay?
Well, I know background gets a bump like if they have to do wet work or if they have to like if there's smoke in a scene. I don't know how it works with.
It wasn't. I wasn't background. That was a.
No. I know you weren't background.
Yeah,
I don't remember. I never had to deal with the SAG-AFTRA contracts on the production side of things. So when you're a day player like that, but like scale.
I was like I forget. It wasn't guest star, but it wasn't day player. It was like a different.
It was co-star, right?
Co-star. It was co-star. Yeah.
So as a co-star, were you on a daily or co-star weekly?
I think that was just one. That was one day.
Okay.
I got the 3 lines or whatever it is.
Sure.
And that was a wild shoot because we were in the pool. And that's literally like 12 hours. That clip you watch, that's the representation of 12 hours of work. So after we do the first sort of like shot and then they do like a turnaround, we went into a steam room to warm back up. But then when we went back into the water, I was like freezing cold. So I was like, you know what I'm going to do?
Because you've just been in a steam room.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm just going to stay in the pool the whole time. I'm just going to swim back like while they're... No. Because like I'm moving around and I'm like, I'm warm and I'm loose. And if you watch the scene again, you'll see the guy who plays like the crime lord that I'm blowing. You see him in that like 10 seconds. You see dark circles start to form under his eyes because he kept going back into the steam room and then back into the pool. And I'm like, dude, you shouldn't be doing it. Just stay in the pool. So I just like, I literally got paid to like swim in the pool all day long. It was amazing. I got to tell you, so I was like so nervous because I was going to have to be in a bathing suit. So I was like, I had like 4 weeks to prep. I was working out 3 times a day. I was eating nothing, and then
carb
you
didn't
watch.
pass your. You just ate an apple every day. You did
and
the
then
Joel
you see
McHale diet.
And then you see the scene, and you literally don't see past like below my chest. You don't even see my nipples. I like maybe you see my nipples for a second, and it was just like
But. Whatever. You didn't
Best
come
laid plans.
You're at least going to be confident throughout that scene. You're not going to be thinking, I hope my abs pop.
No, It was definitely worth it to like when I derobed, I was, I felt confident in my little tiny thing. I was in these little tiny trunks that they put me in.
So speaking of little tiny trunks, is this the time we should segue to the reason we have you on today?
Yeah, the more I've been thinking about it, I'm hard-pressed to think of a scene that is stuck in my head more than this opening scene.
Everything about it, every detail.
We're going to record, 228 tonight?
228 episodes of this.
So we've seen 228 episodes of this goddamn show. And I do not think that there is a more memorable scene that we have seen than your scene.
I mean, maybe when Steve from Sex and the City, from that episode, but
when he tells Steve from Sex and the City tells Benson and Rollins that they'd be more attractive if they were partial amputees.
Yeah, if he amputated their legs, they'd be more interesting.
They'd be more special.
How does that stack up against Perp on Viagra? Could have raped her for hours.
Yeah, he could have raped her for hours. Oh my God.
Mariska.
I mean, just like, if you think about, I like in my mind to think that they actually did, they drew out all of the shots for this. They're doing like storyboards, like they're fucking Akira Kurosawa or something like that.
No, it's not like
this
that.
Is some Hitchcock. Nope. No, I'm sure it's not like that at all.
Nope.
But I like to think in my mind that somebody has a little panel, like a penciled in drawing of Taryn Manning's panties close up in that scene.
What
the fuck?
It's a crime that they shot, like, it's such an unflattering position, and it's just like
everything is terrible about that shot. But let's rewind to the beginning. So was this on location in an apartment building? Because you're coming up the stairs. Yeah. I'm assuming they didn't build a set on a second floor.
Yeah, that apartment is a location. Yeah,
nice.
On location.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you run up the stairs. This is the cold open. You run up the stairs. You're knocking on Larissa's door, and then the neighbor comes out.
Lucy Martin, who
Lucy
we've seen in her underwear in a different SVU.
Oh, really?
Yes, in the William Lewis episode, she's the one
is she the mother?
She's strung up in the closet
Christ.
wearing her underwear.
This show has so many people do so many terrible things.
It sure does.
I bless you guys and bless your listeners and bless the people who really like this show. When I was doing research when I got cast, I don't know how, hey, I watch horror movies. That's my comfort.
Yeah.
I don't know how people watch this show as much as they do. It's so
traumatizing.
So
coming from two guys who have done this
things.
229 times.
Yeah.
We rank the episodes on the awful things that happen to people.
Yes. The more bad things, the better. So, from what I can tell, Lucy Martin's character, whatever the actress or whatever the role is.
Yeah, I forget.
She is her apartment. From what I can tell, basically forms the wall that keeps going this way. So when you kick the door open, that's like at the edge of the apartment. Yeah.
Josh is getting into the nitty-gritty of this. You
It's,
probably don't remember.
Yes, I was listening to the episode, and you guys were really fixated on this because it's, the geography doesn't line up.
Yes, the geography does not line up at all. Because they have you come around, because when you are able to key in and you can see past the chain lock.
Yeah.
She's obviously Taryn Manning is tied down to a chair.
Yeah.
In just her well, not her. But in a bra and underwear that
Devin Rattray has dressed her in, and then tied her up with
after shaving her, of course, and leaving nicks all over her body because that was a detail we all needed. Adam,
why not?
Yeah. So she's tied up in this chair in an angle that, from a later shot, is very unflattering. Not that she looks I'm not saying anything about Taryn Manning, but if you were to ask, hey, could I be framed in the least like
anybody, doesn't matter
possible,
how
doesn't
fit
matter who
you
it is.
are,
It doesn't matter who you are.
It's not a good position.
No, skin binds on your stomach if you're like hunched forward.
Yeah.
And so they basically it ends on a shot, the scene does, of just a close-up where the bottom of the frame is about midway under the mons pubis, and the top of the frame is like right above her belly button, and that's a tight shot. And if you're looking at an 80-inch TV, as I am usually, that's a lot of screen for not a lot of flesh. And okay, so
what were the lens? What lens did they use? They use 80.
So, do you remember how long this sequence took to shoot? Was this a whole day?
This was,
because there's a lot of action and a lot of changed angles, and
it was minimum a day. Like I said, they went over with me by a day or two, so it was a minimum. I think we were there 2 days maybe.
Okay.
Wow.
Jesus. But was this the first shoot of the day, or was this like a midday call?
This was early. In the day. So when I open the door, when she gives me the key and I open the door.
Yeah, when you kick
and I look through the lock with because she's got the lock, right?
The chain. Yeah.
By far the hardest thing I had to do was that shot of me looking.
Line up your eye to the camera.
Because I'm legally blind in my left eye. So that's the eye that I remember that the director, I had his name written down. He's a real John Cassavetes kind of guy. Okay. Kind of real like
Constantine
intimidating.
Macris.
Yes. Yeah. I could tell he was getting a little frustrated with me because it was like, it's such a simple thing. You open the door and then you look at this thing, and I'm trying to tell him, like, I am blind. I cannot see more than like 3 inches in front of my face. So it's just like shooting like darts in the night, trying to hit that shot. But the geography of it, like, I think you're correct in that it wasn't
Because I'm almost positive. I just watched it again because I remember the blocking being a weird thing. And when the next door neighbor opens her door, her apartment's shooting down that way. Like the space of her apartment, it's a hallway down that way too. So like the door is definitely opening to the wall, forming the wall between their apartments. Mm-hmm. And so you come around, they have you come around, and it's almost like they have to have pivoted because...
But just to have
Buzz,
the crew in a
because
tiny
Buzz
apartment.
is supposed to be behind you there.
Yeah, he's Devin Rattray. He's Buzz McAllister from Home Alone.
Yeah, he's... I was like, is that's Buzz from Home Alone. That's got to be Buzz from Home Alone. My introduction to him, by the way, was I was in a trailer out on the street, and his trailer was, I didn't know this, but his trailer was next to mine, and I'm like, just in there waiting, and I can hear music coming from the trailer next to me, and it's like really creepy, like children's music. And he was prepping by listening to like creepy kid songs, and I was like that's gotta be the guy who's playing what's his name in the episode?
Eldon Baylog.
Baylog. That's gotta be Baylog. And then he was just hanging out on set, like he was like, hey, you guys gotta. He was like totally fine. He was the most confident guy. He was wearing a robe, I'm assuming. They didn't have a robe. What they did have though was like a butcher's jacket. You know, those like almost
so
lab
much
coat.
Worse.
So yeah. So like in between takes, he would put on this like lab butcher's coat thing with the mask on.
Oh God!
And just like and he's totally just like he commands the set, and he's just like, can I see the playback? I want to do this, and he's just having a good time with the mask either on his face or right above his head. He was having a blast. That's the part to get in this episode.
Yeah.
That or David Patrick Kelly.
Yeah. They both got to have a lot of fun.
They both went there. Wow.
He's just his Devin's like grounded, like obviously not in this opening scene, but like his interrogation scene. Yeah. How a matter of fact he is. And then he makes these
pawing the photograph.
Yeah, when he kind of like that, and when he kind of like touches Maloney. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Wow.
It's like
Maloney must have almost broken there.
I bet you that was his audition. That was the audition scene for the part, and I bet you that's all the stuff he's doing was all him.
I wonder if he was offer only.
I don't know, man. A lot of people who
not offer
think.
only, but like I wonder if, because they do stunt cast.
But Taryn Manning was probably the one they cast, the stunt cast, right? Like, she's the one that they called.
I can't imagine she auditioned for the part, but
no, and I bet David Patrick Kelly didn't either.
Oh no, not him. Yeah. No. But maybe that's how fucked up the business is.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you remember anything of the audition for Law and Order?
I do remember this. The part was slightly different, and there was more of Patrick. When I got the first script, Patrick had 2 more scenes. There was like he was
Which is
there.
Why they had you on for a week or more than a week, for 2 weeks basically.
It was 3 days, 3 or 4 days is all I shot.
Okay.
I got the time and a half because they went over on my time. But what happens with the show like Law and Order, right, is that they write a script and then they start to whittle it down in what they're going to be able to get accomplished in that time.
Sure.
You know,
they only have 42 minutes.
Yeah, so Patrick got, it cost them way less to have me there for 2 scenes as opposed to 4 scenes. So I was there with Larissa when she's going through some of the stuff she's going through, and it makes more sense in the story. But the practicality of paying me and working out the logistics, those things get lost and cut.
Sure. So you didn't actually get to act with Taryn Manning, but did you interact with her very much?
She was very
Well, he did, but she was unconscious in the scene.
Yeah. She was unconscious in that scene.
And they didn't use any doubles for any of the scene in the apartment, right?
No.
It was just the three of you.
Yeah.
No,
Just the three of us.
Because it's another stunt heavy scene.
Yeah.
I had a stuntman that we didn't use because I was able to just do all the stuff.
Okay.
But I think I was the only guy with a stunt
I was wondering about the
person.
fall specifically. If with the fall you might have to.
Like with the banging through the door, they had to. I had like body armor on under my costume.
Okay.
Because
Cool.
you do it like you think it's no big deal, but you're doing it like 30 times, and you're gonna like screw up your neck or your shoulder or something.
For sure. Yeah.
And my stunt guy was awesome. They're always awesome. Stunt guys are always awesome. One of my best friends is a stunt guy. Yeah,
They're the coolest guy on set by far.
Yeah.
Like everyone's always like, "Oh, stunt guy's here. That's awesome."
Yeah.
Like the entire fucking crew, whenever a stunt guy's on set, is jazzed.
Yeah.
Like whatever's gonna
They're
happen.
cowboys,
this
man.
is the kind of cool, like fun day, you know. So you had a stunt double that you didn't end up having to use. How many times did you have to shoot breaking the door in?
like a dozen times. Like a
Jesus
dozen
Christ.
times.
At least
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
a quick reset, probably,
It's a quick reset, but like
because they
it
have the
was-
lock on a breakaway mechanism, right?
No, because it's
Did they have to re-drill the
someone's-
lock each time?
I can't remember how they did it, but I mean that is someone's apartment
Okay,
that you're
yeah,
shooting
yeah.
in. You know what I mean? Be
Yeah.
careful if you agree for someone shooting your place.
Yeah.
they'll fuck it up, man.
Pour over the fucking location agreement. Pour
And
over
just-
it because
just
your
like-
place is going to get fucked.
So
I've
much
worked on plenty
equipment
of location
everywhere.
shoots.
Yeah.
Don't ever let them shoot at your house.
Yeah,
Never.
or
But no
ask
stunt
for
guy
like a crazy amount of money.
Yeah, an exorbitant amount of money, like more money than like
Mm-hmm.
a year's worth of mortgage payments.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
Having worked on the production side of things, I'm well aware of all this.
Mhm.
So with the hand-to-hand combat with Devin
With the-
Rattray,
Wow.
Whitey's tidy Whitey's clad Devin Rattray.
He was really character. I mean,
How
he
long
was
were you
nailing
grappling
this.
with him?
I don't know. That's like a few hours altogether of shooting.
Yeah,
He was great. He was very nice.
that's awesome.
Taryn Manning was sort of more quiet and
Sure.
and to herself.
Yeah.
I remember we were driving in a car, the three of us. We were being driven somewhere, I think to Chelsea Piers, which is where
Okay.
their headquarters was at the time.
Yeah.
And we passed the Seinfeld diner.
Okay.
You know, the
Yeah.
exterior shot,
that's
and
right.
and
Sure,
he was
yeah.
so fucking pumped about it.
Oh,
He
that's
was he was just gregarious and like he was like, I got a band, you guys should come check it out. And oh my god, that's the side. Like take photos. I'm gonna send it. I gotta put. You know, it's just like
Did you get to verify whether or not his band was the music that he was listening to get in character?
I was not unfortunately able to verify that. I should have.
So were you going back for like end of day stuff, or like was the apartment location close enough that they were shuttling from Chelsea Piers to the location, or was this I guess it could have been the hospital. Well, no, he wouldn't have been there with at the hospital.
No, he wasn't in the hospital scene.
I think we were being shuttled somewhere for like maybe it was we were being shuttled to wherever they had set up base camp.
Yeah.
Where everybody is, which is sometimes blocks away.
Yeah.
It's hard to
Right.
it's hard
It's
to
wherever
recall.
you can have
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
parking lot, basically.
Yeah,
Big
but
shoots
the-
in
but-
New York are crazy because there aren't parking lots. So
Yeah.
Yeah, you just see the star wagons parked.
Yeah.
exactly.
Taking up a whole city block.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because
Well,
Adam
they-
used to
they-
live down the street from Only Murders in the Building's apartment.
One of their from their cafe. Not I've been by the apartment
yeah, the
complex.
cafe.
That's on the other. That was on the west side. I live on the east side, and yeah. So, but there other things would shoot, and like guys come by at night saying we're going to tow your cars if you're here in the morning, and then then all of a sudden there's like 100 trucks all over the neighborhood. I always planned that I was going to wear like a black shirt and put a walkie-talkie on my hip and go get some crafty, but it's like I couldn't show up there with a 3-year-old doing that. I would feel bad.
You should have had me send you a walkie. I could have sent you a walkie.
I mean, I have a
easily.
walkie-talkie.
I think you can get away with that, especially with the 3-year-old. You know,
just
what
get
I mean?
a couple rolls of tape. Yeah,
My kid needs to eat.
yeah.
All you need is gaff tape.
Yeah.
saying like
Get a
just
clipboard.
grip, Adam grip,
Yeah.
and that's it. Throw it on your
Make
belt.
sure,
you'll
make
be
sure
fine.
you're wearing like Bluntstones or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Uh-huh,
yeah, or
definitely.
you have like just like a string of different tapes on
Yeah.
your like hanging from your
Sure.
belt loop. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Have a multi-tool like strapped to your belt.
Yeah, I usually do, but that's from boating.
Did this forever change how you viewed Home Alone?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I just couldn't believe that was Buzz. You know? And
It's
then
amazing.
like I think you guys mentioned Blue Ruin in the episode.
Yeah.
God, he's so good.
Love
in
that fucking movie.
Yeah.
That guy works. He was in R.I.P.D. He's in a ton of stuff. He was
in
really
Better Call Saul,
good
too.
actor. Yeah, he's just he's a great actor. He's fantastic.
We're still talking
Like-
about Devin Rattray, right?
Yeah. Devin Rattray. Yeah, he's amazing. And man, I remember going into makeup my first day at Chelsea Piers, and
Was this for the
Mariska.
hospital scene?
yeah,
Okay.
and Mariska's there,
Yeah.
and I was just like, the camera does not do justice to how gorgeous she is in real life.
Mm-hmm.
And she helped me out so much. She was so nice. She was wonderful. And then I remember I'm in my chair and Christopher Maloney comes in. And Christopher Maloney's not a tall guy, but he's built like a brick
Right.
shithouse.
Brick.
Oh,
And
no, we've all seen his ass cheeks and tight pants.
Yes.
We've seen the cheeks.
Yeah.
And
Dude is cut.
I am like a seminal film for me was I was working at Hollywood Video when I was 15 years old, and
Nice.
the first movie I rented was
Wet Hot American Summer.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he was for many years my favorite character in the movie.
Oh, for
And
sure.
I
I'm
was-
gonna go hump a fridge.
Yeah, I so desperately wanted to just be like, I'm gonna go fondle some sweaters, just like say one of the lines to him. But he comes into the makeup room, and I'm in my chair getting done up, and he's got like an electric shaver that he's kind of like shaving a little bit,
Yeah.
and he stops.
He can't
And
be
he just-
too clean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he kind of like commands the room when he's in it, and he's kind of like, Michelangelo. Jesus fucking Christ, man! Like, we gotta call you. You got a shorter name than that? We gotta call you something. We gotta call you something else. And I was like, yes. And he
Thanks,
like
Mom and Dad.
he in our scenes together, he is fucking around and having a good time with the crew
Yeah.
up until action, and then it's
Really?
like a laser beam focused into what he's doing, but it's just like he's laughing and joking, and then it's like ready, set, action, and then boom, he's right there. He's
Yeah.
what's his character's name? I'm sorry,
Stabler.
Stapler. He's the guy, and and Mariska was like, I remember she like kind of like, I'm laying in the bed, and she kind of like grabs my foot, and she goes, "You're doing a good job." It was like, that was like everything,
Yeah.
you know,
Nice.
a little encouragement.
I mean, that's a good scene with the leads. That's
Oh yeah. Was it crazy to have fucking? I mean, we all love Wet Hot American Summer.
Yeah.
Was it crazy to have him say a guy in his underwear swinging a tripod? You're lucky to be alive.
I was so fucking nervous. It's my first time working really on camera in a professional setting, and like,
Yeah.
I don't know where like I just remember the director being like, you got to stay low. So like, I kind of feel like I look really awkward in that scene. Like I'm like kind of, you know, like I'm like, I
But
don't
you've also just had
understand
the
what my
shit kicked
framing
out of
is. Yeah,
You look like you
and,
got
know,
the shit kicked out of you by a large, basically naked man wearing a hockey mask. I mean, like that's how you'd look, right?
Yeah. But you know, Patrick, he can take a beating. He's got brothers.
Yeah. He's was it? How many brothers did he have? He didn't
Did
say.
he say
never mind.
3 older brothers? Maybe
Yeah.
just older brothers.
Yeah. Was makeup, going through makeup for this fun? Because obviously you're in
Yeah.
more than just like, you know, more than just normal makeup.
Yeah, they you know, they do the
yeah.
little cuts, and they, you know, it's
They put your arm in a sling too.
Was my arm in a sling? I honestly don't remember.
Oh, man, I don't remember.
Honestly,
I just
don't
watched
I think
it
it
3
was,
times.
but I could be wrong.
But I got
Yeah.
the tubes and everything, and
Yeah.
and yeah. Yeah, I got
Did
to
they
lay
shoot
down.
the hospital at Chelsea Piers, or was that?
Yeah,
a
that
location
hospital's in
somewhere?
Chelsea
Yeah.
Piers.
I'm
Yeah.
sure because
Because they have so many.
when do you
hospital
see an
scenes.
SVU episode that they don't go to the hospital? For
And they're
something?
so their offices are there, right? So like every all the stars,
Yeah.
Maloney and Mariska and Richard Belzer and Ice, they all have offices, right?
Nice.
So on the days that I was at Chelsea Pier, it was 2 days. They put me the first day in BD Wong's dressing room, his
nice.
office dressing room. And like being in that space was really cool. He had this huge framed photo of when he had this big article in the Advocate, I think it was. It was a magazine article on like him adopting his son. And it was like a big deal for an openly gay man and his struggles with like the adoption. And then the next day I was in Richard Belzer's office, dressing room. And dude, his office is covered in cigarette ash. And his sunglasses are they're everywhere. Those his eyeglasses that he wears. And I was like, well, they're not there that day. And I'm like, I'm just hanging out in his office, like trying on his sunglasses and stuff. Because I'm like, this is Richard Belzer's sunglasses. This is I cannot pass up this opportunity.
No, it's crazy.
That's badass. I assume you're. Have you seen Substitute 2, School's Out before?
That's the one with...
Where B.D. Wong is the big bad.
With the first
is
one
he
with
the
Treat
big bad?
Williams.
Yeah.
B.D. Wong is the big bad.
I was going to say Treat Williams, yeah. I have not seen that since I saw it as a kid. Is it worth revisiting?
It's very
No.
bad.
Okay.
It's very bad. But it is funny
We
to
watched
see
it
B.D.
for
Wong.
Movie Club.
He's like the auto shop teacher, right?
Yeah.
/ big
And
bad.
also
Yeah.
running a drug smuggling thing through the car shop at the school. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I think I need to watch all the Substitute Teacher movies.
I mean,
Well, maybe just the first two.
if you're doing like a Treat Williams retrospective, then watch it.
Sure.
But it's
If you're wanting to honor Treat, as Treat should be honored.
Speaking of films, did you guys ever get around to watching Dreamscape?
Yes.
No.
So, I guess, whatever. Sean and I just recorded Dreamscape for Unkind Rewind.
Nice.
But that episode won't drop until probably November.
So when I was going to school at New York, I was on the Upper West Side. I was right by Lincoln Center, and there was the Performing Arts Library, and I would rent movies. And one of the first 2 movies I rented from the Performing Arts Library was Dawn of the Dead, which I had never seen before, the original George Romero film, and then Dreamscape from 1984. I just watched a little bit of it today just to get a little flavor for it. It's a fun movie. I think I wouldn't call it a good movie, but it's fun and kind of crazy. It looks great. As someone who misses seeing like actual film,
Practical effects.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Practical effects, but like actually something shot on film that doesn't look like
Sure.
it was shot on an iPhone. It looks great.
Yeah.
And of course, I mean, David Patrick Kelly. You cannot go wrong.
Yeah, David
with
Patrick.
David
We
Patrick
can't get
Kelly.
away from David Patrick Kelly on this interview.
Well,
because, of
you'd
course-
thrown it out because I just listened to 97. I just listened to it today, and you had thrown out Dreamscape, and I was like, "Oh, that's funny," because Sean and I just recorded that with one of his buddies. So that is coming, listeners, for Unkind Rewind in season 2. So
Nice.
Yeah, if
I
your
see.
thing is David Patrick Kelly in a black gi with light up nunchucks on a post-apocalyptic dreamscape train,
It kind of is.
this movie
it's
is
the
for
movie
you.
Yeah, it is.
That sounds fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is the Bill Pullman episode movie that I'm getting that confused with? Doesn't matter. Look it up.
So we're recording this 5 days after the release of Sabrina Carpenter's 6th LP, featuring 2 global chart toppers and her first Billboard Hot 100 single. She's in this episode
Okay.
as one of Eldon Balog's victims, Paula,
Ah.
the one who goes into
okay.
more detail. This also features Catherine Missel and Peyton List, who are still going strong. So 3 child actors who, despite having acted in this episode, are still acting.
Yeah, because we counted that there was like 11 children in this one.
Yes.
And many of them did not
Many of
act after
them
this
did not keep
after
acting.
this.
And this happens frequently.
Yeah.
We host a podcast about a show that's really fucked up and ask kids to do really fucked up things. How easy was it for you to say to your parents, Mom and Dad, you should watch me in this.
Oh, it was easy.
There wasn't,
Yeah.
you didn't have to.
I'm going to give you some context here. Before I moved to New York, I was living in Kansas City, and I got a job in a play, and it was called The Little Dog Laughed. And in it, I do full frontal nudity.
Okay.
And it's the play is about a movie star who's a closeted homosexual who falls in love with a prostitute. I play the prostitute, and I have multiple full frontal naked scenes with a guy
On stage.
And my mother came like that. I was like, guys, you don't need to come see the show. But my mother came, and my high school girlfriend's mom came with her and saw this show.
Right.
So something like that was like, you know, my nieces and nephews are just like, I love them so much. They were so young at the time. I was like, maybe don't let them see it, because they're still they were. My nephew in particular, one of them was like at an age where it's like they don't quite understand that what they see on the TV isn't real.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah, because I mean, this is definitely a show that I don't think Adam or I would ever say, "Hey, Mom, listen to our podcast about us."
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't want to go into detail about like just how the jizz got on the VHS cassettes on David Patrick Kelly's couch, but
that guy's a sprayer, huh?
Yeah, what in the hell?
I got horny. I had to relieve myself. Some matter must have splattered all over the place, and
I saw some
Jesus
tapes.
Christ.
I have a question. So, what's the most recent movie you guys have done on your podcast? Before we start to wrap this up,
Friday the 13th is coming up.
Nice.
In September. So we actually did a special exclusive YouTube episode for Friday the 13th Part 3. 3D, A New Dimension in Terror.
Sure.
And then we
the
also
3D,
did Part 7 recently.
Okay.
And then we did a staff meeting episode where we got together because we were going to be throwing like a movie party outside, and we were trying to figure out like summer horror movies. So it's more of a listicle episode where it's like horror movies that define to you what summer is, whatever that means. And we sort of go through, we each have 3 picks, and we decide which one is going to be the winner that night to do a screening with a bunch of friends and Jiffy Pop and fire pits and all that stuff.
Sleepaway Camp would be
Sleepaway Camp. That was. Oh man. Oh, Angela. Oh boy.
You guys have done Sleepaway
What a
Camp,
scene.
right? I swear I saw that on the list. I was going to.
Yeah, we have a
YouTube.
YouTube. We have a YouTube.
Yeah.
That was one of our first YouTube episodes.
Nice. Beautiful.
That's an interesting story. The guy who made that, I love that movie, but like he kind of takes credit for making like a progressive film and being ahead of the curve. And I think he just got lucky making something and like doing something for exploitation and the sensationalism of it. So like I don't like it when people like, you know, like, oh no,
retrofit their fucking like transgressive thing as being progressive.
Yeah.
Because wow, is it not progressive?
No, not at all. It's not. It's listen. It's cool when somebody like. I have this book that I can't wait to read called "It Came from the Closet," and it's people from the LGBTQ community talking about horror films and like what it means to them. And when someone from a certain community can see a film that like Nightmare on Elm Street 2, and like it can become a champion of this new thing by being owned by these new people and being used to celebrate something, that's great. But that doesn't mean the people who made it were trying to do that. You can't. That's not cool. You know. And we did do an episode on Nightmare on Elm Street 2. That's the one with
That's
that
the one
was
with the
like
bus scene, right?
It's got a bus scene, and it's like so. Like it's
Is that the one
so
with
homoerotic.
Corey Feldman in that one?
No. Nightmare on Elm Street. Corey Feldman is in the Friday the 13th franchise.
Oh shit! Okay,
So he's in Part 4 and then has a cameo in Part 5. But Nightmare on Elm. There's a great documentary called Scream Queen. My Nightmare. It's the guy who starred in Nightmare 2. It ruined his career because he was not an openly gay actor because it was not okay to be openly gay.
Sure.
And that it's like all these straight guys wrote this script that was obviously had homosexual themes and undertones, but to this day had no clue. According to them, they had no clue there was any of this happening in and it's you see it and you're just like, this is so
This is gayer than Top Gun.
Yeah, and that's exactly where I was going. I was like, I'm thinking of Top Gun in my head right now. Like,
but man, I have not seen that since I was a kid.
All those flight sequences are very homoerotic.
There's nothing gayer than straight men spending time together.
Yeah, well, especially when they're topless, wearing jeans, playing volleyball. I mean,
yeah.
So that's the you've got the brains and I've got the brains and you've got the body, right? Is that two? Or am I misremembering? Like Freddy's like,
yes.
I've got the brains and you've got the body.
Because it's a possession film. He's possessing.
I need to go back and watch that.
Jesse, I think it's the character's name. You should check it out and then check out my episode.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a plug, and we'll put links in the show notes for sure.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. We have extensive notes, so anybody.
Yeah, extensive notes. Yeah. So if you wanted someone to, is your primary means of putting the podcast out now on your YouTube channel?
No, that's sort of an experiment. We have I think we have 8 or 9 episodes altogether that will be coming out, and it's like we got turned into cartoon characters, and you kind of get to see. You get this. There's some crude animation and lots of production stills and images that you get to see that go along with it. But our bread and butter is the podcast itself. Yeah.
Badass.
Do you have a favorite episode of yours?
Oh, I like,
or maybe a movie that you enjoyed the most. If you don't want to.
Well, there's a Christmas staff meeting episode where you can hear me go from not liking Christmas and not dealing with depression and anxiety built around this holiday and childhood trauma, and you hear my friends talk me into
Christmas.
Yeah, to let go of the cynical part of that and to participate into the tradition and the story as a community. So I really like it for that reason. And then, I would check out like Sleepaway Camp or Ginger Snaps or any of our the YouTube stuff is really great and it's edited down a little bit. Our episodes run long. But
you're talking to guys who routinely record for 2.5 hours and cut an hour out. So
yeah.
But hey, Michelangelo, this was really awesome. Thank you for taking so much time to talk to us. This is
thank you for caring to want to talk
God.
to me about this experience I had many years ago.
Whoa, it's awesome.
Yeah, and we've talked a little bit about this, but we'll definitely be having you come on Unkind Rewind at some point too.
That would be great. That would be amazing.
That'll be fun, and that'll also be all about you, but in a totally different way. That's not about some relatively random thing that you did for a week once fucking 13 years ago.
More about your traumatic childhood viewing habits.
Yes. Yeah. There's a lot of those. You listen to the podcast, you really get to hear a lot about that. Oh, boy.
And Munchies, they did an episode on Warlock, and I feel like there was one other movie, but now I can't remember what it was, that was germane to this podcast. The Warlock episode's super fun. So, cool. Well, again, thank you for joining us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you to your wonderful fan base and your listeners. Thanks for listening.
Yeah.
And thank you, Greg, for connecting us.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks, Greg.
Thanks, Kansas City Royals.
Josh's
favorite baseball player.
That's a big eye roll. Could you hear it? Listener?
I'm just leaving that there.
The thing is, Josh is like a lifetime Royals fan who turned on the team, and now they're good again. It really burns him, and it's great. I love it. Now I'm a huge fan.
Whatever. Cool. Again, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Oh, guys, this is great. Keep on munching, guys.